Today we're recapping the captivating psychological thriller titled Immaculate. Welcome to Flashback Recap. Hit subscribe and let's dive right in. The film begins within the walls of a convent where Sister Mary, a young nun, is engaged in prayer. After her devotions, she sneaks into the quarters of a senior nun to steal the keys, intending to escape. Unable to unlock the gate, Sister Mary tries to squeeze through its bars but is caught by one of three hooded figures in pursuit, leading to a severe leg injury and a cry of agony. Overwhelmed by pain, she loses consciousness only to later awaken to the horrifying realization that she has been buried alive. Sister Cecilia, a devout young woman, arrives in the peaceful Italian countryside for a new position offered by Father Teschi. Warmly welcomed, she is introduced to an exclusive convent where elderly nuns spend their final days, guided by Sister Isabella. Though initially greeted with irritation, Cecilia is shown to her room. Despite Isabella's subtle discouragement, Cecilia remains determined in her choice. As she settles in, she befriends Sister Gwen and prepares for the upcoming ceremony. Happy to reunite with Father Teschi at the event, Cecilia later converses with him, learning of his deep love for the convent. She shares her near-death experience at age 12, when she fell through ice and was revived after 7 minutes. Grateful for her second chance, Cecilia felt called to a higher purpose, leading her to eagerly accept Father Teschi's invitation to join the prestigious Italian convent. After the ceremony, Cecilia is in the bathroom when she hears a distant cry echoing through the convent corridors. Intrigued, she follows the sound to find a nun kneeling in distress, her tears mingling with prayers. Attempting to offer comfort, Cecilia is startled when the nun turns, revealing a hauntingly featureless face. Suddenly, the Reverend Mother intervenes, leading Cecilia to the altar and presenting a large weathered nail said to be from the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Showing Cecilia a hand marked with a hole similar to Christ's, the Reverend Mother proclaims it as a symbol of absolution for her sins. Overwhelmed, Cecilia faints. Upon regaining consciousness, she seeks counsel from the cardinal, only to be met with silence. Desperate, she cries out, but her pleas are met with a sudden attack, binding her as hooded figures loom ominously. Terrified, Cecilia awakens from her nightmarish ordeal, her gaze fixed on the door where a shadowy figure approaches, unsettling her. As she turns on the light, she finds no one there. During breakfast, the Reverend Mother addresses the group while Cecilia engages in light-hearted chatter with Gwen. Observing their behavior, the Reverend Mother gently reprimands the two young sisters, marking their initiation into the convent norms. Despite their duties, Cecilia and Gwen find joy in each other's company as they diligently perform their tasks, tenderly caring for an elderly nun in her final moments. Cecilia catches Sister Isabella's gaze, but it is soon obscured by a passing sheet. Later that night, Cecilia is surprised when an older nun unexpectedly trims her hair. Though puzzled, Cecilia escorts the nun back to the infirmary without dwelling on the matter. Before leaving, she notices a scar on the nun's feet, shaped like a cross. The following day, Cecilia bathes alongside the other young nuns while Gwen recounts her journey to the convent. Gwen shares her past of living with an abusive ex-boyfriend whom she eventually stood up to before seeking refuge in the convent. As Gwen speaks, Cecilia listens intently, but suddenly feels unwell. She excuses herself for a checkup, during which she notices a mysterious figure lingering outside. While watching, a sudden movement startles her as a bird drops in front of her. Cecilia is summoned to the cardinal's office. The cardinal questions whether she had broken her vows before joining the convent, while Father Teschi, mistaking her confusion for reluctance, urges her to confess. Despite the pressure, Cecilia firmly maintains her innocence. Astonishingly, the doctor's examination reveals Cecilia's pregnancy. Interpreting this as a divine sign, the cardinal and Father Teschi rejoice, believing Cecilia to be a modern-day Virgin Mary. As they celebrate the perceived miracle, Sister Isabella and Gwen noticeably lack the room's joy. As Cecilia advances into her second trimester, strange occurrences begin. Cecilia relaxes in the bathtub, only to be startled when someone forcefully pushes her underwater. To her horror, she discovers it is Isabel, who relentlessly tries to drown her. Just in time, a senior nun rushes in to assist, pulling Isabel away as she angrily shouts about deserving Cecilia's fate. The doctor promptly examines Cecilia, reassuring Father Teskey that the baby is unharmed. While walking the corridor one day, she sees two nuns gazing from a window. Suddenly, a figure jumps from the rooftop, and as Cecilia rushes to investigate, dread fills her. It is Isabel. As they solemnly proceed to lay Isabel to rest, Gwen leans into Cecilia, urging her to awaken to the truth. Father Teskey notices their conversation and inquires about their distress. Gwen erupts, condemning the indifference towards Isabel's death. Cecilia sits on her bed when a picture frame on the wall loosens and almost falls. Behind it, she discovers a Bible verse in Italian, 2 Corinthians 11:14. Curious, she seeks out the verse in her English Bible. As she reads, Satan himself often masquerades as an angel of light. Cecilia's skepticism about Gwen's claims begins to wane. Quietly, she ventures into Gwen's room, finding it empty. Undeterred, she slips into the cardinal's office, rifling through her files. Among them is a newspaper clipping detailing the accident she narrowly avoided. Startled by a distant scream, Cecilia cautiously traces its origin. Peering through a keyhole, tears well in her eyes as she witnesses a nun without a face severing Gwen's tongue. Backing away, Cecilia is startled as a sickly nun covers her mouth, preventing an outcry. With a chilling smile, she presents Cecilia with a cross wrapped with her hair. Desperate, Cecilia implores the nun to help them escape, only to receive a grim warning: no one leaves the convent. One morning, nurses are jolted awake by Cecilia's piercing cries. Hastening to her room with Father Teskey, they are met with a distressing sight. Cecilia is heavily bleeding. Desperately, she pleads with Father Teskey for help, fearing death. Swiftly, Father Teskey decides to take her to the nearest hospital. En route to the hospital, Father Teskey receives a call revealing Cecilia's deceit. She had faked a miscarriage to escape. Realizing she has been exposed, Cecilia tries to flee the vehicle but is too weak and is quickly apprehended by Father Teskey. Returning to the convent, Cecilia faces a stern reprimand from a senior nun who vigorously bathes her. Subsequently, Cecilia finds herself bound to a wheelchair. Father Teskey, wearing gloves, retrieves a nail from the crucifixion display, presenting it to Cecilia while explaining his long-term scheme. Before his ordination, Father Teskey had been a geneticist. He embarked on a secret project to extract DNA from the crucifixion nail to create a new Jesus Christ. Despite 2 decades of failures, Cecilia's involvement marked a turning point, culminating in the creation of a new Virgin Mary destined to give birth to the reimagined. Father Teskey ushers Cecilia into another chamber where his assistant, Deacon Enzo, forcibly immobilizes her leg. With cruel intent, Father Teskey sears Cecilia's feet with a cross-shaped branding iron. Subsequently, Cecilia is confined to a room, ensuring she cannot attempt another escape. The doctor checks on her baby once more before leaving her in the care of the Reverend Mother. While the Reverend Mother monitors the baby, Cecilia silently seizes the crucifix and beats her with it. Exiting her room, Cecilia suppresses her labor pains. Meanwhile, the cardinal is unaware as Cecilia stealthily approaches. She strangles him with her rosary. Dr. Gallo stumbles upon the scene and flees in terror, rushing to the basement. Cecilia finds Father Teskey laboring with ethanol and ignites a lighter just as Father Teskey appears. With resolve, Cecilia drops her lighter, igniting a blaze. Father Teskey escapes, breaking through the door. As Cecilia descends the stairs, discovering herself in the catacombs beneath the convent, she frantically searches for an exit, scanning the chamber in trepidation. Her heart races as she illuminates the space, revealing Gwen's body. Hastily, she flees the chamber, sees daylight filtering through a hole large enough for her to crawl through. Father Teskey intercepts her, seizing his chance to extract her baby. Cecilia summons her strength, seizing the crucifixion nail and plunging it into Father Teskey. She crawls through the opening to escape outside. She collapses to her knees, her scream piercing the air as she brings her baby into the world. Cecilia recoils in horror at the sight before her. Though the details of the baby remain obscured, she realizes that her child has transformed into something monstrous. Cecilia tears the umbilical cord with her teeth and grabs a nearby rock, unleashing her terror as she relentlessly strikes down the abomination.